So, hello and welcome along to another edition of Isolation Interviews here on Hospital Radio Reading and for my YouTube channel. And my guest today, well, a very talented actor in the form of Jamie Glover. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you very much for asking. Pleasure to be here.
Now, we must start off by talking about the strange year that we've had. Well, 2 years now.
Yeah.
I mean, how have you found the last couple of years? How have you coped with it all?
Oh, well, I mean, it's been pretty bonkers for everyone, isn't it? I mean, yeah, crazy. I think the first thing to say is that we, in my family, we fared relatively well, very well. In fact, we've been lucky. No one, touch wood, has got seriously ill with it. And we have been able to work. My partner and I both worked throughout the various lockdowns in some capacity. So it's been minimised, but between her and me, we've kind of managed to keep the boat afloat, which has been great. I mean, I guess one of the weird things uh, or the kind of advantageous things for actors is that we're used to long periods of idleness and not knowing where the next job is coming from. So I think although it's been a kind of societal shock to the system, a lot of people not knowing that actors are kind of better equipped than most, I guess, to write in that way. But it has been scary. But it's also brought, I think, hasn't it? It's brought some rather amazing benefits, and it's brought people together in a different way, as well as divided people in others. Well, we're seeing more of that now, I think, which is very sad. But yeah, I think some of the things that it's kind of taught us have been quite. They've been watershed moments, I think, really, and I think just the way that the societies have shifted, largely for good, but as I say, unfortunately, with some nastiness appearing around the edges now. But yeah, it's been an extraordinary thing to live through. I think a very different ball game for people who've lost loved ones and or employment and all of that. So I consider myself very blessed that we've managed to dodge most of the bullets. But yeah, crazy times.
I mean, when we first went into the initial lockdown back in 2020, were you in the middle of anything? Did anything have to sort of stop for you?
Yes, we were about to start shooting Agatha Raisin series for Sky, the fourth series of that. Actually, I wasn't in the first episode. The episode that we came back and shot it at the end of. I've got a completely lost track now. At the end of. No, this summer, this spring. So exactly a year later, we shot it, and I wasn't in the first episode. But the first episode that I wasn't in is the Christmas episode, which is about to go out on Sky. So, I was about 3 or 4 weeks away from shooting. But like a lot of TV shows, it was literally the Friday that we were told they were about to start shooting on the Monday. So. But we packed up and went home. So yeah, it was very, and just lights going out all over the film and television and theatre industry, sort of one by one, and then suddenly just boom, they were gone. It was a very, very crazy time. But as I say, same for every industry really.
I mean, did you find yourself doing anything different over lockdown? Things that you don't normally get to do? Any new hobbies? Anything that you're now interested in?
The thing that I said to some friends of mine, it's amazing how little I've got done with so much time to achieve it. Juggling children that's I've got they're now about to be 16 and 13, but so they were whatever age they were at the beginning of lockdown. I completely lost track of time, but yeah, so keeping an eye on them and keeping their spirits afloat and their education afloat, really, that's been a full-time job. And as any parent will tell you, it's not homeschooling, it's emergency schooling. Homeschooling is an active choice. People plan for that. The scrambling around on various BBC bite-sized internets to try and find, I have no idea what this means. Surely this is more advanced than year 7 homework. So yeah, that was quite a full-time occupation. But so no, I like to cook anyway. I've done a lot of cooking over lockdown. That's been a pleasure. But spending time with family in a kind of, without being Pollyannish about it, that has been a kind of really lovely thing. That we've all been forced to stop and look around us. And as I say, my kids are teenagers now, and kind of it's not very often, well, never, do you, as a parent of those kids at that age, do you get a chance to kind of just sit down and be in each other's space, because they're off doing their own thing and just trying to keep everybody in the same room is challenging us. So that has been a joy. So I feel that's been quite a full-time occupation, but
I mean,
I've been very, very pleased to have.
I mean, as I say, you touched upon it, a little bit. And the other thing that's obviously so important is mental health and making sure that, the older people are looked after, but also the youngsters, because
Yeah,
it's tough times. They've never been through this in their lives, and well, none of
absolutely.
us have really. So it's trying to
No,
get used to how much time are we supposed to be spending on screen, and how much time are we supposed to, just looking after ourselves.
completely, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And for every for every generation, I guess it's brought up different challenges. I mean, I do feel very much for um, kids in school, because whichever my younger daughter was just finishing primary school and starting secondary, my older daughter was kind of slap bang in the middle of secondary, and both of those have, it's kind of blew a hole in their social lives, really, but in different ways. Just the point with the older child, we sort of thought, well, at least she's in school, she's kind of got a groove going on there. But actually, suddenly everything's stopping, and just not being able to kind of solidify those friendship groups, which is such an important time, isn't it? And likewise for my younger daughter, moving from an old school to a new school, that was completely new, and she didn't get a chance to get her feet under the desk, really. So, but as you say, older people too. My mum and dad, they were very lucky to be with each other in lockdown, and stopped each other going mad. But it was very important for me that I kept in touch with them. So I, like everybody across the land, would do FaceTime every day, try and make that a thing to kind of. So yeah, it's been really challenging, and continues to be, doesn't it? And it's can't believe we're quite back in the situation we are, but yeah, there we are. Won't go down the politics of that.
Now, I wanted to ask, where for you did the love of acting come from? How did you get into it? Where did that start for you?
Well, my parents are both actors, so I guess I grew up around it. So it wasn't such a kind of strange beast for me as it was for a lot of people. I guess it was always a career option. But my mum and dad certainly didn't push me towards it. And it was the first school play, like most people, really. The first school play, I suddenly went, this is just amazing. And I was pretty shy as a kid. I mean, not excessively so, but pretty shy. And it was a way of coming out of a shell, I think, and kind of, I mean, it's an amazing thing when you get that bug and when you feel that. I mean, for me, theatre has always been the reason to do it. And when you feel that connection between an audience and a cast, there is an alchemy that happens, or can happen. And when it doesn't happen, it's sort of devastating. But when it does happen, it's unlike anything else, and it's an adrenaline rush like no other. So yeah, it was, I'm afraid, boring thing, school play, but that's where it came from.
And I mean, obviously, I've spoken to many actors in the past who have sort of said that theatre's probably the thing they love the most. But then you kind of end up doing TV to kind of help with doing the theatre, because it gives you the audience, that they obviously know you from the telly, so they come and see you in the theatre. I mean, obviously, Waterloo Road was a big thing for you. What was that like to play Andrew, and what was that character like, and that show like to be a part of?
It was an absolute joy, actually. Truthfully, I mean, it was. It was a big telly break for me, and it was really good. I think. I mean, that's funny. I watched a bit of the first series with my kids about a year ago in lockdown, actually, and it really does stand up. It's really good. I mean, the interesting thing, which was because we shot it 16 years ago now, the thing that there was one episode about. So I'm going on a tangent, but there's one episode of some girl who'd had a photograph, a compromising kind of, not quite sex tape, but a kind of compromising photograph taken of her, and the episode was about chasing it down, and not before it kind of blew up on social on the internet. Of course, that's gone now. It was pre Snapchat, pre WhatsApp. Everybody, that would just be gone on the phone. So it was just, within 15 years, how dated that suddenly seemed. Anyway, that's a tangent. But it was a kind of, it was a prime time BBC drama that was had its primetime soapier element, but also the heart of it was about how do you turn around a failing comprehensive, and the different ways that people came at that problem. And Andrew was obviously coming from the public school sector, the kind of discipline, but also just not understanding the edges that social deprivation bring to some students in the state school, and the kind of having to learn the pastoral care element. And I thought it was just very, very skillfully put together, particularly with me and Jason as the headmaster and Angie Griffin. That kind of triangle, how the three of them operated to try and solve those problems. It's really clever, actually, and also it was just a hoot. It was fun, kind of soapy viewing, and in the best sense. So I thought it was quite clever, the messages that it kind of snuck through under the wire of just essential popular entertainment. I've got nothing but fond memories for it, and of it. And it was. I was thinking, because I thought you might be asking me about it. I was thinking about it this morning, actually, thinking what a really clever cast they put together, because it was quite eclectic, but chemically it really worked. I think from Grantley Budgeon and all the different characters and the actors that they got to play them. They kind of really came together well. It's they don't always work, those shows, and I think it really did.
I mean, like you say, it had an amazing cast. The likes of Jill Halfpenny, of Denise Welsh, of Jason Doan. Just to name a few. There's so many great actors that go through it, but also the younger cast who, when they go into a show like Waterloo Road, people don't necessarily know of them, but then it's a great launch pad for them. And I mean, so many people have gone on to have such great careers from it. I mean, absolutely. And I imagine as well that as an actor playing one of the teachers, you learn from the pupils.
Oh, completely, yeah. And that was I guess that's like a real teacher-pupil relationship as well, isn't it? Is that the pupils teach the teachers to be better teachers, and that was definitely the case. Although, of course, they were all young adults as opposed to kids. I mean, I think I'm right in saying that. I don't think there were any actual school age. Don't quote me on that, though. That could be complete baloney. But they were obviously young actors. We all felt quite young. That's the irony. Definitely. And that there was that. There was no kind of hierarchy. That there was. That those kids. They were all brilliant. They really, really were. I mean, they were fantastic. So no, they definitely taught. It was very much a symbiotic thing, and I think that's another reason it worked. I think.
And I mean, when you obviously make the decision to leave a show like that, was that quite an easy decision, or was it a tough one to make?
Well, both. I mean, I knew that I wanted to leave. My daughter was just born, and I kind of wanted to be back in London with her. Also, I felt that the show had kind of, for Andrew, had kind of run its course a bit, which is not to say it couldn't have gone on, but I think it was, it just felt like the right time to leave, and I was very sad because, even at the time I knew what a special job it was, and as I say, both easy and hard. That's a ridiculous answer, because it was hard to leave something that had given me so much, that I was still enjoying so much, but also easy because it definitely felt like the right time. It felt like, quit while you're ahead. So.
I mean, we do know that the show is returning at some point next year. I mean, we don't know quite who's in it. I mean, that'll be interesting to find out that. Yeah. But I mean, what do you sort of hope for the future of Waterloo Road?
I mean, I hope it carries on doing the stuff it did before. It was sad when it finished. I mean, I didn't stay completely on top of the show, I have to say, once it finished. But I've got no doubt that it will. It's, as I said with that illustration earlier, 15 years. It seems like yesterday to me, but actually, the world has moved on, and I think the world for kids particularly has moved on now. I mean, the the social media thing, I know all these like me bang on about it, but it really is a complete revolution. And the world that my kids are living in now, I mean, I don't envy them. It's really hard, that, and the kind of the huge swathes of social groups they've got to keep on top of and kind of manage. That's really hard. So I think that's a big reason for it to come back. I mean, I don't know when Waterloo Road finished. If that had started, properly taken grip, then I suspect not. But again, don't quote me on that. But I think that, so to have that in the heart of a show, the whole dynamic is already very, very different. So I think it will undoubtedly have new things to discuss and cover. But it's a good formula. It's a good formula. Staff and pupils. It's a good formula. I've got no doubt it'll be a success. I wish everybody well with it. Yeah.
I mean, that's the other thing as well, is, social media can be a positive or a negative. I mean, what's kind of been your, impression of social media? Because obviously you're on Twitter yourself. I mean, what's your kind of relationship with social media like?
I've only come to Twitter quite recently, about a year ago. I did co-directed with Jason Merrells, actually co-directed a short film, and you have to kind of go on social media to get the word out there. So I sort of reluctantly did. I'd always been very, very unpredisposed to do it. It just felt like more admin to me, more things to respond to. So I think that it's hard, isn't it? I mean, there's no putting the genie back in the bottle now. I think it's a dangerous thing. I think that's playing out across the world. I think it's certainly playing out in our society. I think there's more fringe elements that suddenly feel like they're mainstream, and dangerous elements. I think there's a lot of far right activism. I think it's directly fueled by social media. But on the other hand, it also brings about great stuff like the Black Lives Matter movement. That spread through social media, and that kind of, it felt at the time, I don't know if people would agree, but it felt at the time that there was a kind of proper societal shift, and that was fueled by social media. But it's both good and bad. I'm scared of it, truthfully, and I use it, and I spout off about things on Twitter occasionally, and then think, maybe I shouldn't have done that. But it's scary, isn't it? And I think it feels like you're just chatting to your mates in your bedroom when you tweet something, and actually, boom, it's out there. And it's I do think the fact that it fuels a lot of hatred, I think, is very sad, and I don't know how you reverse that. And that's one of the main things with, as I said, come back to my kids again, just trying to keep on top of that. And it's impossible. It's like whack-a-mole as a parent, trying to keep on top of all of that. But you just wanted to kind of be aware that as soon as you tweet something, that's it forever. You can delete it from your phone, but it's out there, and somebody will dig it up. And there's countless people have found out, haven't they? They say something stupid or insensitive when they're 15 years old, and 10 years later, suddenly there it is, detonating, blowing up their career. So scary, but no putting the genie back in that bottle.
Exactly. Now, I mean, we have to talk a bit about the Harry Potter stage show, because obviously you were a part of that back in, I believe it's 2017. The second cast. What was that like to do that show, which is, or the stage show, which is obviously based on the hugely popular books?
Yeah, it's an absolute delight, and I encourage anyone who hasn't seen the show to go if they can afford it. Tickets aren't cheap, I appreciate that, but I do think that more than any other show I've seen, you do see the money up on the stage, and it's a dazzling spectacle. But more than that, what John, Tiffany, and Jack Thorne produced was a story of great heart, and it's finally about people, and the magic kind of sits on top of that. It's not dominated by the magic. I think I'm right in saying that the original idea was that there would be no magic, that it would be just Harry, and it was like a chamber piece, Harry and Albus, his son, talking. And I think when they kind of workshopped that as they went along, they realised, no, I think we probably do need a little bit of magic in here somewhere. But it always felt like that was the right way around, that they were dealing with a a story of a struggling father-son relationship, and that was absolutely at the heart of it. Um, and So yeah, no, it's an incredible thing to be a part of. I mean, and I saw the show with Jamie Parker, and I was kind of blown away. And to be able to step into that, I mean, it's really rigorous and it's hard work for those guys. And I've got some friends still in it, and yeah, it's tough. It's a really tough schedule, particularly it being in two parts, which I believe is not on Broadway now. They've made it one long show, but it's in two parts in London still, which I haven't seen the one part version, but I think it needs the two parts. But it's you're in for a physical and vocal warm up every day before the show, and it's two shows a day, and it's full on. So doing it for a year was, yeah, it's tough, but honestly, this is not just me blowing smoke. It really was. It's an incredible thing to be part of, and I've made some indelible friendships, and I'm honoured to be part of it. It's a great show. It really is a great show, and it's not. It could have been just a kind of rip-off opportunity. Do you know what I mean? It could have been really awful, and it just isn't. It's a great show, and hats off to John and Jack for that. Yeah.
I mean, going forward, is there a dream? Is there something that you haven't had the chance to do yet that you would love to do? Maybe a particular role or a particular, piece that you'd love to work on?
There are always more roles. That's the thing as an actor, particularly theatre roles. There's lots of Shakespeare roles I want to do, and that's one of the bittersweet things about acting is that you can, as more, you see more roles that you become age appropriate for kind of starting to come into view. You're also seeing the ones you wanted to play but haven't played disappearing in the rearview mirror. So that's always the bittersweet thing. Though. So there's always roles. I'd like to do. I'd like to go to America and do something there, but I think you need to. Well, I've always felt that you need to go with something to go over there. You need to go with a project which kind of gives you a bit of clout rather than just going over and then joining the ranks of people holding up their hands saying pick me, pick me. That's it's too big a pool to choose from. So yeah, so that's what I like to do. I mean, I direct as well. I direct in the theatre, and I love that. And I'm directing something next year, which is great. So. So that's just variety of work. The reason you become an actor is to have a breadth of experience of different ways to tell stories, and that's always the joy. When you get good writing and a good director and a good cast, and that coming together, it's so exciting, and it's as exciting now as it was to me when I started 30 years ago. So. It's a boring answer, isn't it? So there's no particular thing, but yeah, that's the truth of it. Just it's always just good writing and good collaborators. That's what you wish for.
Now, obviously, the big day isn't far away. What are your plans for Christmas? How will you be spending the festive period?
Well, like everybody else, looking forward to doing what we weren't able to do last year, which is we do it here. We normally go to my mum and dad's on the day, who are London based. So, and then yeah, that's what we do, and we try and spread it out, not to do all the presents in one early morning go. Spread it out. So yeah, no, it'd be nice to be back with the family again, won't it? Fingers crossed we're allowed to do that. Maybe when this airs, we'll have more knowledge about whether we've been able to do that or not. But yeah, fingers crossed. No, it's going to be lovely, isn't it? Just being able to be back and something like normality.
Exactly. Get back and do what we wanted to do last year, but couldn't.
We wanted, yeah. I mean, it has come around so quickly, though, hasn't it?
I know exactly. Where has the year gone?
It's. I mean, I know we always say that, but this year, really, it's like, okay, it does feel about 4 or 5 months ago that we were putting up the tree, and yeah.
Although I think last year people left it up a bit longer. I think some people left it into January, February time.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, there are a lot of decorations around for a bit too long. Yeah.
Now, before we go, I have to ask: is there anything you'd like to say to the patients who are listening in hospital at the moment, who obviously aren't having the best of times? Any messages you'd like to give them?
Yeah. Well, just a very, very, very happy Christmas, and I hope that you're able to see your loved ones as much as possible over the festive period. It's obviously not the place you want to be in hospital, but I guess with people like you looking after them, then that's they're going to be kind of all right. So yeah, have a lovely Christmas and a prosperous 2022. I can't believe it's 2022.
Anyway, I just want to say, Jamie, it's been an absolute pleasure. Massive thank you for giving up your time, and of course, keep safe.
Thank you. It's been a joy. Yeah, thank you so much. Thanks.